Good morning, everyone. My name is Isaac. As the weather's gotten nicer, this right here has become my favorite spot to come out and just enjoy the mornings and do some of the practices that I've been sharing with you. If you're just joining in on our series, I encourage you to go back and watch the past 3 videos. But I've been watching this tree for the past few months that overhangs our yard right above this spot right here. You wouldn't know by looking at it now, but when I began this series, there wasn't even the faintest hint of green on this tree. I'd come out here and sit right here in this spot every single morning and it would look the exact same, lifeless and dry. But then one morning I came by and I looked up and there was green. It was as if it was completely out of nowhere. It was beginning to bud with life, and now just a few weeks later it is full of lush green leaves. And I was thinking about how this is really a great image of what it looks like to abide. For weeks, even months if you include the wintertime, it would look like nothing was happening in the tree. There were no leaves and no fruit. But as the branches continued to abide in the trunk, eventually fruit did come. And when it came, it burst forth as if out of nowhere. Throughout this series, I've been mentioning that contemplative practices at its very core is really all about just putting us in a posture to simply abide in the presence of Jesus. But as with this tree, abiding takes patience. This isn't a quick fix, and these practices I've introduced are not an end in themselves. Their purpose is simply to put our mind, body, and spirit in a place to simply maintain our gaze on God and becoming more aware of His presence with us at all times. But we must choose to remain in Him and commit to keep coming back to these practices, even if we feel like nothing is happening in the moment. And so I encourage you that as you continue these practices, whenever you feel like nothing's going on, I want you to look at the trees outside, see them in full bloom, and remember this is the result of abiding. It may take patience. You may not see the fruit at first, but Jesus promises that as long as we remain in Him, we will bear much fruit. Life, peace, and most importantly, His love. That is the real fruit of abiding. Love for God and love for others. In this time that we're facing as a nation with civil unrest, we need His love now more than ever. We want to be brokers of peace in our community, and we need His love to do this, I believe. This is maybe a bit of a cliche at this point, but we really are living in unprecedented times. And I said in the first video, and I think it's even more true now with everything that's going on, is we're all dealing with some level of anxiety and grief in this time. We're all dealing with some level of this discomfort, I would say. But for some of you, I know that anxiety and depression is an ongoing battle. And it may feel completely debilitating and overwhelming at times. And so to end this series, I wanted to share briefly about my own story and my own battle with anxiety and depression, and also give some suggestions for you as well. So I want to first say that this is a gradual and ongoing process. I've certainly had my ups and downs. Some seasons and days are better than others, and I expect that to be the case in the future. And my lows have been, at times, really, really low. Feeling I have no energy to get out of bed in the morning. And before COVID-19 ever happened, I struggled with shortness of breath, feeling as though, because of my anxiety, I can't even get a full breath of air for days and days on end. I've even found myself crying out to God, saying, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to be able to continue living on like this. This is just too hard. I've often felt like the psalmist in Psalm 88, where he says, Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. You have taken away from me friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. Psalm 88 is an incredibly raw psalm with virtually no redemptive ending, and yet we do find it in Scripture. And I think one of the reasons for this is because it shows us our Father in heaven is not afraid of our darkest thoughts. He's never shocked or offended by our emotions and feelings. And so I encourage you to develop a really raw conversation with God, giving language to the full depth of emotion and feeling going on deep within, maybe letting that serve sort of as an offering to him. Now, another thing I want to mention is that I have struggled with questioning the point of life, feeling as though my life has no meaning and purpose at times. And I know this is a thought that many who have struggled with depression may be able to relate to. And so I want to take a moment just to remind you that your life does have meaning. Your life does have purpose. And I can say that with absolute certainty because the Bible teaches us again and again that he created every single one of us for a specific purpose. And his desire for us is not simply just to survive, but to actually reign in life. In his letter to the Roman church, Paul says, "For if by the trespass of the one man," he's talking about Adam right here, "death reigned through that one man, how much more will those who receive God's abundant provision of grace and the gift of righteousness reign in life through the one man, Jesus Christ?" Now, I don't know about you, but I don't always feel as though I'm reigning in life. In fact, more often than not, it's quite the opposite. But this is actually another fruit of abiding. In my experience, as I've just sort of sat in his presence, just silently contemplating his amazing love and grace for my life, it's resulted in a deeper confidence in my identity and also a clarity of my created purpose. You know, his desire for us is to reign in life. And so I believe that as you abide in him, you will find yourself becoming more confident and secure in who he's made you to be. Now, the last thing that I want to mention is that this is a journey that I have not taken by myself. Isolation is probably the worst thing for someone struggling with anxiety and depression, and it's also probably the biggest hindrance to healing. Social distancing does not mean social isolation. Yes, we do have a responsibility to care for the most vulnerable among us and to stop the spread of this virus, but we also were created for community. We were created to need one another and to be strengthened by one another. And so I encourage you, if you are struggling, please, I implore you to reach out for help. Let your community group leaders and friends know how they can love and support you during this time. We need one another, and there is absolutely no shame in admitting that you are struggling. And on that note, I want to encourage you to consider the Genesis process as well. This is a fantastic program that we run at the church, and it's been incredibly transformative for me, and I really cannot recommend it enough. For more information or to inquire about the next change group, you can send an email to hello@newfrontierschurch.com. But I also want to say it is okay to seek professional support as well. You know, counseling and therapy has this sort of taboo thing that we don't like talking about. But quite frankly, we need to fix that because pursuing emotional health and seeking to heal the wounds from our past shows strength and courage. It is not something to be ashamed of. You know, I'll be the first to admit that I see a counselor once a month, and for a time I saw her every single week, and it's been incredibly helpful for me. And I'd be more than happy to pass along any recommendations that I have of Christian counselors in the area. I'm sure Ian would be as well. But either way, don't allow yourself to stay stuck. Don't settle for just surviving. C.S. Lewis once said, "We can ignore even pleasure, but pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." We can stay stuck in our pain, or we can choose to see it as a gift, a symptom showing us that something is wrong so that we can attend to it and seek healing in that area. You know, guys, there is so much more for us than to simply just exist. His desire for us is to thrive, to reign in life. And so don't settle for just surviving. I love you guys. I hope that you have found this series helpful, and I pray that these practices continue to bring you life. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bless you all.